let's start with Apologize, because that's how most of us got to know One Republic. And who are those guys? But what I found fascinating to learn, Ryan, is that you had been cut from the record label before Apologize came out. Yeah. Yet it still became a hit. Yeah. How'd you do that?
Well, long story short, there was a period around 2006 with the label that we were on where they were kind of cleaning house. And this happens periodically in record labels. Anybody that was costing money and not earning money really was kind of let go. So we got dropped the same week that Katy Perry got dropped, which I think she got dropped about a month later.
You and Katy Perry got dropped?
Yeah, we got dropped by the same label. I won't say who the label was.
Columbia.
Actually, you know who it is. I now have a great relationship with him. But we got dropped. We played Coachella, and then a week later got the phone call, like, you're getting let go. So
how did you take that news?
Man, like I remember driving back from my manager's house in Laurel Canyon, and I was sunk because I'd put 3 years of my life into it at that point, and I was indignant. I was also I was writing for other artists at the time, so I had a fallback plan. The guys in my band at that point didn't. This was kind of everything. I went home that night and wrote a new song. I thought, well, I'm angry. I'm gonna just write another record. And then the next day, the idea was I was so mad. I was like, they don't know what songs they're sitting on. And the two hits off that album were Stop and Stare and Apologize, both of which they just kind of, let go. So I preemptively took our stuff and posted it on MySpace, which I wasn't legally allowed to do at the time because it was still owned by the record label. But I just did it. And I checked the box that said unsigned.
Unsigned.
Yeah, and that's what did it. Because the unsigned category at that point, for about 2 or 3 years, and anyone that worked in the music business will remember this, there's a 2 or 3 year period where you would comb through MySpace to find new artists to sign. It was crowdsourced artists, right? Yeah. Kind of like SoundCloud is now, but it was more focused. MySpace shifted to become purely about music. And you could go on the unsigned list, look at the top 10, and just be like, well, we could sign them or them or them, because here are the top 10 unsigned artists in the world, 250 million people on MySpace listening to more than anybody else. Colby Calais got signed off of MySpace. Yeah. We got signed off of MySpace.
So since they dropped you, even though you had done Apologize on that album, they no longer could claim it?
No, they still technically owned it. So what happened was our new record label, they dropped us, and I thought that's it for the band. Yeah. So I threw myself into writing and producing that year, like just hardcore, 5 days a week. And incidentally, that year that we were dropped was the year I wrote, I had like a J-Lo single, like Natasha Bedingfield, and then I wrote Bleeding Love, and that
Leona Lewis,
and that became a hit for her, and it coincided, that song getting placed with her coincided with us. We had like 10 shows left as One Republic, so I was like, well, let's keep our commitments and finish these shows, and then by June we're done. Like we were going to break up as a band. Well, we start playing the shows, and they start selling out, and then record labels
because
start
of
showing
Apologize?
Up. Because of MySpace. We had
but on MySpace they could hear Apologize.
They could hear Apologize. Yeah, they could hear Apologize, and that was the most played song on MySpace. So all these people started coming to our shows because of MySpace. It was like not the birth of social media, but it was the first time I think that you could see the internet driving people without record labels, driving people to shows and to buy merchandise and to listen to music. It had nothing to do with a record label. It was just us going directly to fans.
The consumer.
Yeah.
So what did you think when people started coming to hear you? You had no record label, but they're going crazy for Apologize.
It was the weirdest. It was the weirdest time period because I'm kind of historically used to being feeling like the underdog or feeling like the odd man out. That's just kind of always, maybe it's just ingrained in me, but that's always. I don't ever expect anything. I don't expect success. I believe it's going to show up if I just keep doing what I'm doing, but I don't think that I'm owed anything, right? Ever. So I wasn't expecting. I was like, we're going to keep doing these shows for 30, 40 people, and it's just going to taper out, and then we can walk away. And it went like 40 people, 150, 400, 500, 1,100, and we were selling out. I remember we played the Avalon in L.A., which is a rather large venue. As an unsigned artist. Unsigned artists don't really play that venue. And I thought if we can sell this out, then we have something here. And so we put it on sale. We just sold out the Roxy, and we blew out the Avalon, and that's when Interscope showed up, Universal Music. And they said, we want to do a deal. We want to do it right now. We're going to take Apologize, remix it, put it on Timbaland's album, and then we're going to service you to put you guys out to rock radio, because we were a rock band.
And the rest is almost kind of like history.
It is kind of history, yeah.
Yeah.
And Apologize kind of changed the aperture of everything.
So tell me what it's like to go from, okay, you were indignant, you're a little annoyed, to, okay, we are back in the game. Take us there.
It was still disbelief. I remember telling him I just got married. So my poor wife, I get married and then disappear on tour like overnight. I remember telling her, the Apologize was remixed. The original version is on our album. And I heard the remix and I thought, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this is going to work or not.
The Timbaland version?
The Timbaland version, yeah. I was like, we'll see. And so I was very dismissive. I was so caught and I was so used to things not working out that I was very, I don't want to say pessimistic, but I was very just like, it'll happen if it happens, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then Apologize just exploded. And then Stop and Stare became, a very big second hit for us, which kind of cemented the band. I told the band, if we can't get another hit record off this album, we're done. I'm not going to be the one-hit wonder like VH1, Where Are They Now? The Apologize Band of 2007.
Where is Ryan Teeter?
Where's Ryan Teeter and the Apologize Band?
I don't even know the name. Yeah, Ryan Teeter.
Because that's what we were, the Apologize Band, until Stop and Stare, and that kind of rescued us from the one-hit wonderdom. And I literally kept thinking about that movie, that thing you do, with the Oneaters. I was like, God, we're going to be the Oneaters. Like, this cannot be our
You did
fate.
not want to be a one-hit wonder.
No, I was desperate to not be. I'd rather, I don't want to say I'd almost rather not have anything, but I was like, I'd rather be known as a writer and a producer than this band that just like goes boom and then like just kind of flitters out like a firework.
Yeah. Being a Where Are They Now, never good.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing.
But Ryan, there's a part of you though that wanted this so badly, because you tell a story about being in LA penniless.
Yes.
That you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
But yet you still wanted to do this. You still wanted this music.
I wanted to do music, yeah. In whatever form or fashion that it came. I knew I had to do it, and
Why did you know that?
Well, there was a while when I was younger. I was in theater, and acting was like my primary skill set. I thought I'm going to go to acting school. I had a scholarship to an acting school, and I was going to go into film or TV or something or theater, and I hit 17, 18, and it came down to this year where I have to decide, because I'd been obsessed with music the whole time, writing, playing. And I was in musicals, so my life was. I was the guy from like Glee that snuck out of the like football practice, like stuck out of the changing room and like would sneak into the theater rehearsal. I was doing sports, and then I'd go do Oklahoma or dress and drag and do, Some Like It Hot. And I just knew that I loved all of it. I loved being on stage. I loved acting. I loved music. So then one summer I applied to like 5 record labels and 5 film studios. And I kind of put it up in God's hands and literally was like, whichever one of these entities hires me for an internship, if it's a film studio, I'm going to go into acting. Mm-hmm. If it's a record label, I'm going to go into music. And I ended up at a publishing, a songwriting division of a record label. So that's kind of how the whole thing happened. And when I got to L.A., I'd left Nashville, moved to L.A., I moved out on my MasterCard. I think I had like $1,500 in credit. Went to IKEA, bought a bed, maxed out my
Did
card.
You have to put it together yourself?
I did,
Yes.
which is impressive.
It is.
I lived, I'd like to say the first 2 years of LA I was living a very Scandinavian modern existence, which means I had a bed and a table.
But they got great meatballs.
Great
though,
meatballs,
Ryan.
yeah. It was a clean living time, and I was writing songs during the day and rehearsing with the band at night. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really see the separation one from the other. I didn't think it was weird that I was in a band and then I was writing for J-Lo. Like,
you didn't?
No.
That was weird?
Well, because things are normal when you're doing them. You're not thinking about, you're not sitting looking down from 30,000 feet going, that's weird. Yeah. Like, you're just doing it.
You're just grinding.
You're just grinding.
The kids of the day
you're
say.
hustling, you're grinding. I knew one person in LA, one person that worked at a record label, and I squeezed him, like in the nicest way possible. Get me in the record label, get me meetings, I'll play you songs. And then he heard one track he liked. He was like, buddy, that's kind of hot. And
what was it?
It was a song I did for an artist named Kylie Dean, which she's now a singer in L.A. and actually has performed with us a number of times. But,
I like that, buddy, that's kind of hot.
Yeah, buddy, that was my manager. Buddy, that's kind of hot. And Marcus Spence. And he heard this record I did. He's like, who did that? I was like, I did. He's like, you produced it? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, come on, get out of here. Oh, let's go to the record label. And we go to Interscope, and all of a sudden I'm sitting with Jimmy Iovine. And it happened like that fast. And then he's like, you need to be writing for I think it'd be interesting if you do something with the Pussycat Dolls. You know, and who else? Mary J's looking for another record. She's great. You should write for her, too.
You sound just like Jimmy, too. Yeah.
Spent a lot of time with Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, he once threatened to throw me off the 5th floor if I gave away one of our hit records to another artist.
Really?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stand up, go over there, pick you up, throw you off the balcony right here because you're a knucklehead. You know. So yeah.
So you're with Jimmy and Interscope.
I'm at Johnson.
So are you there writing? Is that what they hire you to be a writer?
Yes, and I'm kind of like, I'm trying to decide which hand to play as I'm with some of these record label executives. I'm like, do I play them the One Republic stuff? You know, we didn't really have our stuff together yet, our sound or look or any of that. We had songs before we had anything, and which is backwards from most bands. Most bands they're like, oh, he looks cool. We should ask him to be in our band. You know, and like it's like you find like-minded guys that dress the same, like you know what I mean. And you know, you go hang out at whatever American Urban Outfitters, and you find somebody who works there. Let's start a band, and then you all jam and you suck for like a year, and then maybe all of a sudden one really good song kind of fumbles out. You go, oh, we've got something. And that's how a lot of bands start, is just like kind of randomly jamming and then maybe something happens. I wanted to do it the opposite way. And so when I would meet with Jimmy and these different record label executives, I needed to make money. I was broke. Yeah. So
were you married then?
I was not married. I was just dating. And actually, at that point, my girlfriend didn't even live in L.A. So I had all the time in the world, and I was just going around hustling, focused on the music. And so I needed to cut a song placed on an artist more than I needed my band to take off at that moment, because I was literally floundering so bad financially. I couldn't afford to fix my car. I was carless in Los Angeles.
What kind of car was it?
It was an 85 Ford Bronco.
Oh, cute.
I had the idea of taking the top off, which was great until it rained. And then the back of my Bronco turned into a planter. And I literally had vines, I was growing tomatoes, like sweet basil. It got decimated.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to pay a guy $150 to tear it apart piece by piece and remove it from our back lot.
But you know what's so great about this? You're actually trying to get success for the band and also be success as a songwriter at the same time.
Yes.
That's what's so interesting about your story to me.
Night Times, because I the first year in LA I had so much time. Night Times was One Republic, or we were called Republic at the time.
Republic.
But every time you Google, and I actually still wish we were called Republic, I mean, on the record, because there's been enough Freudian slips with DJs and presenters ever since the boy band from the UK came out with the name that they had.
One Direction.
Yes.
Oh,
well, I mean, we had it happen
3
days ago, where a guy's like, "Hey, is everybody excited to have One Direction in the house?" And I was just like, "Jesus, God," you know. And the whole crowd just starts booing, and he's like, "What happened?" You know, I mean, that's literally how this guy talked, and we're like, "Dude, like, I'm too old for this," you know. And no offense, I like the One Direction guys are fine. Harry's
but my name is One Republic. Get it right.
We were called Republic, and which I still love that name. Every time you Google Republic, China pops up. Republic of China. So I was like sitting around with my band, like, God, you know, how many records do we have to sell before we out Google China? And the answer is 1 billion. You know, the answer is it's impossible. You have to be Adele. And so we were like, God, we can't be Republic. Like every time you Google us, they're gonna go to China, which I don't know why I thought that was a problem, but we just did. And,
so you added the one?
We added the one, and that's really where it came from. It was like, well, One Republic, that's very unifying. And 3 years from now, there'll be a boy band, and it will rising tide raises all ships.
Yes,
so people will Google them and they'll find us, you know, and that's kind of more or less what happened. But I was trying to make the band happen at the same time as writing songs. So like on one day, I'd be like, you gotta cut on this new British artist, or on J-Lo, or on Natasha, or I was doing a lot of hip hop. Jimmy was giving me cuts on baby Interscope artists. How it works in the music business: young new writer producers that move to LA or New York get paired with young new artists, because the producers and writers are cheap. They will work until they fall apart tirelessly to get a hit record. Yeah. And big, well-established producers and writers don't want to work with every new signed act to a record label.
But you're like bringing to me.
So I was like, wait, how much do I get if I get a song placed? They're like, $5,000. I was like, oh my God, that's ridiculous, you know. So I would get as many songs as placed as possible. It was like $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Now all of a sudden I'm out of debt. You know, now all of a sudden I can consider buying a car. You know, and So I was trying to get myself above water, and then in the nighttime I would do One Republic rehearsals, and then in the middle to make money to fill the gaps, I was a PA on music videos.
Wow.
And I saw Mary J. Blige earlier this morning. We were on
Good Morning America.
Good Morning America. I saw her on Good Morning America, and I had a flashback. The first gig I ever had as a PA, I was on the set of a Mary J. Blige music video, like 2008, and I was driving a passenger van, driving her and like the whole entourage to and from the place that we were filming in LA, and yeah, it was a total trip. I got $150 for like 18 hours of work. So this
is amazing. This is an amazing story.
Yeah.
So when did you have a break in terms of songwriting that you wrote for X and then that led to X and that led to X? How did that happen?
I would say
because you're writing with all the biggies now.
Yeah, I was. It's very tangential the way things work. You can't really identify the thing that started it, but I would say that the big break, I got a first single on J-Lo in like 2006 called "Do It Well," and I wrote 100% of the song. Because at that time, I didn't collaborate with anybody. I just, for the most part, wrote by myself. Mm-hmm. And so I got this 100% copyright, which in the music world, to get 100% of a record, if you scan the top 50 in Billboard right now and looked at the writers behind every record, I don't know if you'll find one song that has one writer. They're all like 3 writers, 4 writers, 9 writers. Like the last Kanye single had 16 writers on it. So, they say
this was all you.
It takes a village. Yeah, and so it was a big deal that I had this record. That put me on the map with Sony Music, which they then offered me like a songwriter deal. And that single then kind of started. Then a publishing company came to me. It was like, we want to sign you. We'll give you $75,000 advance, based off just that one song. And
was that like, wow?
My brain melted. I was like, that's it. TGI Fridays on me. Let's go. I'm gonna buy the house.
Olive Garden.
Or Olive Garden. Yeah, seriously. Or take your pick. There's Cheesecake Factory.
Yes.
There's Rudy's.
Yeah.
But so
Chili's.
Yeah. So I was buying people dinner and doing stuff like that. And that was kind of the moment where my head was above water. I was doing a lot of music for movies. The first Step Up film, I did like half the music in that movie and the soundtrack.
How was One Republic doing?
One Republic was ascending. We were getting a lot of record label interest. When I actually had my first break as a writer, was during the time when we were dropped. But we were getting a lot of interest because of MySpace. Yeah. So I kind of was feeling a little floaty. I was like, all right, we have... the writing is going good now, and I'm okay. All I wanted was to make a living. I've never had any goals or ambitions about, I need to make, $100,000, or I need to make $1 million, or whatever. There was no numerical goal. It
wasn't, I want to be a star?
No, and it wasn't, I want to be a star. It was, I want to make a living doing what I love, period. And if that means I'm making $35,000 and I'm living in Nashville, but I'm loving every day of what I'm doing, that's a win. If it means, I win the lottery and I'm turned into the, male version of Adele, then, that's a bigger win. And anything in between was okay too. It was more or less, I'm doing what I love. Yeah. And there were periods of time in LA where I thought, man, maybe I'll go into TV or film because music just wasn't really taking off. Because at a certain point you're like, I actually need food and shelter. And
Clothes are good,
and I'm not paying for it right now. So I need money.
So J-Lo was the first one?
J-Lo was the first big cut that I
led
had.
To...
Yeah, J-Lo led to Natasha Bedingfield, and then it was all Sony. So then I had a meeting with Simon Cowell's group, and he's like, we have a new, and Clive Davis, we have a new artist, her name's Leona Lewis. You should write something for her, submit something. So I gave him a CD with like 15 songs on it. And the last song on it, which again I had been told by no fewer than 3 or 4 record labels, was not a hit. To my face, this song's not a hit. The last song on the CD was Bleeding Love.
No way. You were told that wasn't a hit?
I was told it wasn't a hit.
Oh.
I've been told a lot of songs aren't hits. So I guess shows what I know.
Maybe they was wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're...
But then But now you're writing for all of these different people. I'm fascinated by... Because you wrote for Beyonce, you wrote for Adele, you write for Taylor Swift. How do you know what song to pair with each person? What is your process on that?
Well... probably 80% of the time you're with the artist writing. So there are very few artists now that just carte blanche will accept outside songs. There are some that do, and I love that because it makes it easy for me. But I would say probably 4 out of 5 artists now that you would hear on radio or Spotify or iTunes, they wrote, even if they wrote the smallest amount, they were in the room during the creative process. So I don't really, for most 4 out of 5 songs, I don't have to decide who it goes to because you're with the artist. You're sitting there with Taylor. You're not going to be like, Taylor, this idea is fantastic. I'm going to go pitch this to Selena. You know, like you're not going to take a song away from her. You're not going to take a song away from Adele while they're making an album. So it makes it easy. Beyonce's more, if she's asked you to write something and submit something, you're not going to screw her over. You're going to give her everything. So that's more or less, it makes my job easy. I'm focused on that artist. Now, there are times where I'm just writing on my own downtime, which I've been doing a lot in the last few weeks, for instance, and just writing for the sake of writing. And then it turns into, okay, now we have the whole like pitching game. I'm going to go in with this record label. I'm going to pitch this song or these 3 songs for this artist. And then, God willing, get in the room with him, cut the song, and, you know, if the stars align, you have a hit.
So do you write songs with certain people in mind?
Yes.
Now?
For sure. When I'm on the road or touring or just in the studio, I like to have some kind of idea, you know, I like to articulate mentally, like, where I'm going.
Where you're going.
Yeah, because then it gives me some kind of narrative.
So how do you decide which is a One Republic song and which is a song for somebody else?
Historically, that's been pretty easy. Lately, it's gotten a lot harder. There are songs on our album now, maybe a couple that you could pitch to other artists. But I think, you know, you pointed out, for instance, your favorite song on the album, Let's Hurt Tonight. Track 1, that, no one else could sing that. Like, that's me. I mean, like, the songs that we do, that we've had the biggest success with, you know, they would be harder to pitch. If I have a signature style of writing lyrics and kind of the way I phrase things when it comes to One Republic, and Counting Stars is another example. Like, I don't know who I would have pitched. Counting Stars, by the way, would have been passed on by probably everybody.
Yeah.
One Republic songs,
but it's so you,
that become hits for us, are songs that would likely get passed on by other artists. Now, once they're a hit, people will tell you, "Oh man, I would have cut that record. That song's a smash." You're like, "No, dude. Like, you heard this song, you didn't blink." Like,
The Good Life.
Good Life. Yeah, that's another song. I mean,
I love that.
We, you know, I had this idea of putting the whistle into that record. Like, you know, half the hook is that whistle. There hadn't been a whistle song out since
Let me hear the whistle.
Oh, I can't. My lips are like too chapped right now. Well, it wasn't me whistling on the record, I don't think. It was one of the guys that works for us is a really good whistler, and I put him in the booth. I kept trying to do it. I couldn't. My lips are too chapped.
So you go, here, I want you to
I'm
whistle.
like, dude, you do this. Here's the whistle. Ooh, and he just nailed it. But the whistle, like, the idea of doing that, if you pay too much attention to where music's at and you chase where music's at, you'll never do anything innovative or different. You'll end up just kind of doing some weird mishmash of what's already out there. And so I've tried to never pay too much attention to what's happening currently in music. I listen to it and I absorb it, but I don't sit there and go, okay, right. Now, let's see, how can we copy this melody or how can we copy this exact thing? Because it kind of squeezes the innovation out of a moment.
Ryan, you said it's hard to know when you have a hit.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be a problem for you. What's your process on, okay, I know this is a hit, or I'm looking to do this? That doesn't seem... Writing a hit song doesn't seem to be difficult for you, but you said it is.
Lyrics are difficult. For One Republic, it's difficult. Writing them for other artists is a lot easier for me than it is writing them for One Republic.
That's interesting.
Writing them for One Republic because the lyrics have to be just so. The lyrics are so difficult. The vibe has to be something that I can actually visualize myself on stage in 50 different cities singing this song every single night.
That's how you do it?
That's how I do it. Because if I write something that feels like a hit, but I get on stage and I'm like, man, this doesn't feel right. Like, this feels like I'll regret it for the next 2 years. I've done those songs. And the problem with the hardest part about One Republic is that because I have written for so many other people and write for so many other people actively, identifying the essence, the pure One Republic records, it has become more difficult. Where it's like, I did a song last night in the studio where I was like sending it to my wife and a couple of friends. I'm like, this feels like a huge record. should we keep this or should I pitch this?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and that does happen. It happened yesterday. You know, I sent a song to, and I won't say who, but to another artist saying, I think this sounds kind of like you.
So you gave it? You gave it away?
I haven't given it. I just like kind of texted it to him, and I was like, hey, I could hear you singing this. If you like this or you want to finish it with me, let me know. Because I can't figure out what it is. I just know that the chorus feels like a 10. The chorus feels super obvious.
Have they responded?
Not yet. Hopefully they will today. We'll see. I mean, but that's kind of how it works. You don't know. I try not to be too precious about records, but like a song like Let's Hurt Tonight, again, no one else is going to sing that. And that is the essence of what we do. Love Runs Out was the other song you mentioned. I think the songs that have a little bit more of the gospel feel, a little more soulful, because that's what I grew up listening to. That's how I sing. Those are the records that resonate. I might write a hit and put it out as One Republic, but if people don't believe it as a One Republic record, it's not going to turn into a hit. Yeah, it'd be better served with another artist. Got it. And we've done that too.
So gospel's key to you?
I think the gospel undercurrent, I think having a gospel, I don't know if gospel's the right word, soulful undertone is what I resonate with the most.
Gospel,
yeah. When I'm really singing and then like I'm really digging in, that's that almost spiritual nature of a lyric or a record. Those are the records that I feel the most, and those are the ones that I think historically that people resonate. There's like a One Republic is good at doing happy sad.
Happy sad.
Like if you think about Good Life, people will be like, this song's so uplifting, but it makes me also feel so melancholy. You know,
Secrets,
same way. Apologize, happy sad. You know, Counting Stars, the lyric is kind of, it's desperate and very like I'm broke and I'm desperate, yet the melody is uplifting, so it's happy sad.
Are you a happy sad person?
Probably, yeah.
Happy sad.
Yeah, happy sad. I think I'm happy. I'm generally a very positive person. Yeah. With the silver lining of melancholy, you know what I mean? I think that's probably and I'm probably just in a constant state of running from the sad. You know, that's probably if I'm going to psychoanalyze myself.
You don't have to do that today.
Yeah,
we'll save that for part 2.
Yeah.
Does your band get upset with you because they're thinking, dude, you're giving these great songs to other people? How does that work with your band?
Well, historically, a lot of the artists I worked with were female. So there's this kind of line of demarcation, like that separated, the international date line that was between One Republic and artists. I was like, clearly, we're not gonna sing, an Adele record or Beyonce or Taylor Swift record or Ellie Goulding. I remember there's someone in our label.
You wrote Ellie Goulding song?
Burn. Then I went to burn.
Yeah,
burn.
You wrote that.
Like, wow. Yeah, and one of the guys on our record label was like, I think you should put this out. I was like, you're insane. Like, listen to this record. Nothing about this sounds like us. And he's like, but it's a hit. I'm like, yeah, but it won't be if it's on us. And that's the thing that.
But you know that, right?
I've learned now. It still is difficult for me because I'm constantly jumping in and out of other artists' like territories. So. And then there's this, when you are a recording artist, your currency is your live show and your records, your hits. Even, artists don't like to talk about that fact very much, but it's true. Coldplay, arguably one of the biggest bands in the world, would not be without Fix You, without, Sky Full of Stars. They wouldn't be playing stadiums. Like, you need those hit records. It's great if you make great albums, but you need those singular records that are like your passport to something bigger. It's the currency that gets you, that kind of moves the ship, right? So when you're an artist that writes a lot of songs and you write something that feels like a hit, you go, wait a minute, maybe I should hold on to this, right? But you have to start to learn, okay, not every song, even if it is a hit, is going to be if it's on you.
Tell me what it's like when you've written a hit for someone and you hear them doing it.
Super cool feeling.
Yeah.
They'll perform. Beyonce did one of my records when she played the Super Bowl.
Which one?
A couple years ago. She did Halo. She closed her set with Halo in the middle of the stadium.
Halo,
I can see Halo. If you go on YouTube, you can hear a bad version of me singing that.
Okay.
But that was amazing. Whenever they do it on TV, I love it when they cover it on The Voice. Like when they
do
any of those the performance shows, I'll always get a text message like so and so's doing Love Runs Out or so and so's doing Counting Stars. And that's such a cool feeling because it's like a new batch of singers coming up and artists who, out of all the songs they could have done, they plucked your record
like
to reinterpret.
Feel again.
Yeah, Feel Again. Yeah, they did that. They covered that a lot.
Too.
Feel Again. Yeah, we did that with Save the Children. Yeah.
So when you look, I'm wondering how satisfying it is to you where you sit here today. Is there somebody that you wish would call you that hasn't called that you want to work with?
You know, I think anybody would want to work with a guy like Paul McCartney. I think that's
Sir Paul.
Sir Paul. Yeah, Sir Paul. Yeah. Give me a call, Paul. But I've worked with a lot of the artists that I've grew up admiring. You know, U2. I'm still in the studio with them.
Let's talk about that, Ryan. That you now work with people that you admire.
Yeah.
What is that like?
That's
who know your name.
Super cool. I have a record that's just came out with Stevie Wonder and Ariana Grande called Faith in the upcoming movie Sing that comes out at Christmas. And that experience in the studio with Stevie Wonder was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Writing with him, being with him, recording him, producing him.
He's funny too.
Oh, he's super funny. Yeah, he's super funny. Like, you know, he'll walk in and look and like, you know, he's got glasses on, look at you and be like, "Hey man, I like your outfit."
Yeah.
And you're like, "You like my outfit?"
Yeah.
He
makes
you're blind, that's right. You know, like
he does make blind jokes.
Where'd you get those shoes at? Oh, you know, you're like, come on, man. He's so good. And
it's sort of like, should we laugh?
I know,
or not
but
laugh?
I'd die laughing. I don't care. You know, and I told him in the studio, I was like, you know, the first song I ever played on piano was I Just Called to Say I Love You. And he was like, oh, it was? And then he told me the story of how he wrote it in the car on the way to his mother's house, and it was like for her birthday. Mm-hmm. And he just like kind of put it together in his head and then got to the piano at the house and quickly wrote I Just Called to Say I Love You. And I think it won an Oscar. I mean, it was, you know, one of his the last big singles he had at radio. And I was just young enough that I remember hearing it, the tail end of it at radio, like in the 80s. And he immediately sat down at the piano and started playing it.
I think it's interesting that since you said, because I've interviewed so many singers that say, I wanted to be a star, I wanted to be famous. But for you to say, I just wanted to make a living. I just wanted to make music.
Yeah.
But now look at where you are.
Yeah.
You were Ryan Tedder. You were One Republic. You know, you've worked with some of the most famous people. What does that feel like to you?
Well, now I just want to be famous. Okay. Oh no, it feels
Since you
good.
It's not like you were trying for this.
It was the One Republic thing has been the biggest surprise. I knew that I would make it as a writer and a producer. The One Republic thing, because it just faltered so many times, the fact that it's done what it's done to me has been the best gift and the biggest surprise. And now I've embraced it. I was so kind of half in, half out for like 5 or 6 years because I didn't know what it was going to turn into.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I throw all my eggs in one basket and the eggs crack and it blows up in my face, like I can't get that time back. I can't get my life back. And it's taxing, the amount of travel we do. I mean, it's seriously taxing. So One Republic has to connect. We have to work because the amount of time I'm gone from my family and friends, I have to feel justified. I can't just be out. Listen, I love being on stage and performing. It's like it's it's a high, right? I definitely get my rocks off doing that for a long time. I can't be out doing that for months on end away from my family if it's not connecting. If I don't feel that there's a cultural connection there, I won't want to do it because I start to feel guilty. I'm just like, God, I've been gone, 6 weeks now, and like I've seen my kids twice, and life is going on, and they're getting older, and I can't deal with that aspect of it. So as long as things are connecting with One Republic, and I feel that what we're doing is changing people's lives and affecting people, that the music is seeping into their lives, I'll keep doing it.
Tell me about your family.
Wife, 2 boys, Copeland and Miles. Wife is Genevieve.
Musicians.
Yeah, musicians.
Musician names, yeah.
Yeah, Copeland was named after Aaron Copeland. And Miles, we actually didn't. It's so funny because Miles we didn't name after a musician. We just liked the name. Miles Merrick. And then we realized that there is a Miles Copeland, which kind of, related to Stuart Copeland. So
do they know what? Well, there are 2 and
2 and 6.
2 and 6. So the 2-year-old doesn't necessarily know what Dad does.
He knows now. He
doesn't know you're Ryan Tedder.
No, but he listens to our albums and music, and is like he will listen to Kids, like the current single we have out. he will play it for 3 hours straight. And if you change it or turn it off, he will lose his mind. He'll watch the video on loop for an hour, and he's just like, that song, that song, that song.
Nice.
And I think as such, he's so used to hearing me sing and our band that when female singer, he doesn't like female singers because he's used to hearing me sing.
Yeah.
So, and Copeland knows, the older kid knows what I do, but there's nothing like special about it. He's not like going to school and being like, my dad's on, he's sitting with Gayle King.
Well, Ryan, other than looking like a rock star, you just seem so surprisingly normal.
I'm from Oklahoma, and
which means
what? Oklahomans. Any of you Oklahomans out there will know this. If you're from Oklahoma, there's a line that you just don't ever cross. Like, you can't get too cool for school. Like, I'm from Tulsa. Like, it's not. I didn't grow up in the Bronx. I didn't grow up in like San Francisco or Paris, like where there's this extra level of chic, je ne sais pas that I can just wear like a mantle. From Oklahoma, which is just some of the nicest but most grounded humans that you'll ever meet in your life. And the other Oklahomans in the music business that I've met are very similar to me. Yeah, it doesn't matter how big or successful they get. Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton, Esther Dean. Like, it doesn't matter how big they get. There's this kind of grounding. Like, oh, that's right, I'm from Oklahoma. Like, you're not.
Oh, I get it.
Not that you can't be cool.
Yeah.
But like, you can't get a big head. Like, Garth Brooks. Have you met Garth Brooks?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
One of the most like down to earth, down home, normal people. The guy sold 300 million records, and like, is bigger, as big as you can possibly get as a recording artist. And he will sit here and talk to you for 2 hours, and then be like, let me go cook you a steak. You
like cooking too.
Yeah, I do. I love cooking.
You like cooking.
Yeah.
Well, you're sitting there with a haircut that looks very cool for school.
Well, I just got this, and I got this for you like 2 hours ago. Yeah, I'm like fussing with. I'm like, I need to get a haircut. It's getting a little ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. I want to look good for Gayle. I get it.
I
get it. They call you the secret king of pop.
Yeah.
Do we like that?
I don't know.
I don't know if I like that.
I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely other writers. There's
I don't like that.
Other songwriters out there that have written a lot more hits than I have. That
the secret king of pop. No,
deserve that title.
No, I don't think it really does justice to what you do. That's what I mean. I don't know.
Well, if I can be accused of anything, I think it's being a chameleon. That's what I set out to be. My goal from the beginning was, the term I used at the time was Swiss Army knife. And I saw a lot of writers and producers in the early 2000s that had one sound, right? Very, very cool, identifiable, brandable sound. And they had explosive years, like 1 or 2 years of success with it. But the problem with very, very distinct, identifiable sounds is the moment it gets out of fashion, you're out of fashion, i.e. you're out of a job. And I saw that happen. I saw these guys go like kaboom, and act like rock stars for 2 years, and then just whoosh. And then now, like, you'll Google them and they'll be like, have filed for bankruptcy, or like, is looking for work. And I saw that happen when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, oh man, like, I don't want to do that. I would rather be able to fit into any niche or any genre at any time. As music evolves, I'll just evolve with it. And if it means I never get a name for myself as oh man, I just love his sound, that's fine, because I will be able to pay my mortgage and I'll be able to fix my car and have a life. And so it really, anything.
You'll be able to eat, Ryan.
I'll be able to eat. I'll be able to go to Cheesecake Factory, So anything beyond living is just like extra.